Citizen speak time, the board is not here to debate, they're here to listen.
Exactly.
And sometimes people think that we're being rude, but we're not, we're listening. Some things that are brought up, we then put on an agenda later on. Other things, we don't, but that's how this works. Steve knows it.
I do know that.
Yeah.
This is Steve Farina, 87 Railroad. I do know also that when we're sharing, when it's not citizen speak time, but when you're dealing with the issue, that is the time also that we can interact and the board can debate what's being said at that point. So, I really have a couple things I wanted to talk about tonight, but I want to start with the first one, and if I get to be too long, then I won't get to the second one. That's okay. I wrote a letter to the editor that was published in the Berkshire Edge today, and I would like to read it to you as the select board, and for those that are listening, and then give a little bit of a request at the end of it. So what might it look like if we keep Lake Mansfield Road open? And by the way, based on one comment that was posted in response, I'm talking about the 900 feet north of the boat ramp that has been the ongoing discussion. So I don't want to get into the road will be open, won't be open. Well, for one thing, it would satisfy the 70% of the respondents to the LMITF, Lake Mansfield Improvement Task Force survey. That's correct. According to the report issued by the LMITF after their 10 years of study and community involvement, in each of the 3 surveys conducted, 70% of the respondents said they wanted to keep Lake Mansfield Road open. In fact, in the final survey, after all the meetings and information presented to those who were interested, nearly 50% said they wanted to keep it open to two-way traffic. The LMITF continues to state that they solicited community input, which they did. They just failed to mention what that input indicated. So what happens if the town lays down the thick layer of pavement, quote unquote thick layer, that the DPW has stated is critical to maintaining the roadway in any scenario? Well, according to the engineering study presented in the LMITF report, the engineers say it will last between 5 to 7 years or more. The task force decided to state the durability at about 3 to 5 years or less, often saying maybe 3 years, as it seems they believe they are more knowledgeable than the engineers. One may ask, what about the health of the lake? What about the traffic on the road? What about pedestrians, bicyclists, and people who wish to fish? Others, what about the right to use the road? What about emergency services? Why close the road at all? I have proposed a simple, cost-effective solution at multiple select board meetings. It has not been met with additional questions nor objections, mostly silence. Though one select board member did ask a few questions of me recently. My suggestion is this: utilize technology such as Technopost or similar to construct a boardwalk from the beach to the boat ramp along the edge of the lake. Combined with the thick layer of pavement, bank stabilization techniques, this solves the answer to every issue raised. There is essentially no negative impact to the lake. Technopost, it's a brand, are installed in the winter through the ice and produce only a small plume of dirt at their entry point at the bottom of the lake. In fact, through this technique, the ecosystem of the lake will be enhanced. By providing road stabilization in this manner, there is reduced use of salt in winter. Bank stabilization prevents erosion into the lake, and the bank stabilization and boardwalk improve the habitat for fish and amphibians found in the lake. The overall cost of this methodology will likely be much less expensive than proposed by the LMITF, while at the same time addressing all the needs of the community. There will be ample walking, running, biking, fishing off the boardwalk. There will also be ample stability for two-way traffic to continue on Lake Mansfield Road through its entire length. Some of the task force have said we've looked at piers and boardwalks. This, however, is a disingenuous response. The task force looked at smaller boardwalks, not using technoposts, quickly dismissing them for fear of vandalism and fear of unknown permitting costs. LMITF chose not to even include them in their surveys. Had either the solution I am suggesting or the boardwalks they looked at, had either the solution I'm suggesting or the boardwalks they looked at, likely even more than the 70% of respondents would have said, keep the road open. Please, then I just encourage people to let you guys know what they think.
Your time's just about up.
Okay. I had one response from Brandy Nelson, so I'd like to share that and just make a quick, brief comment on it, if I may. She said, she said, Steve, unfortunately, you're oversimplifying the matter, not taking into account what improvements to the lake edge and roadway can be permitted by state, local wetlands regulations. The LMITF has met with state, and no fill or disturbance of the lake bed is allowed. Further, by converting the road to a recreational trail, the town can pursue grants for the reconstruction effort. These funds would not be available if we leave the space as a town road. Lastly, it does not help the process of dialogue in our community when you seek to divide people. We all have and want to maintain public access to Lake Mansfield. I'm happy to discuss details with you. I have a couple things to say very briefly about that. There are ways that the bank can be stabilized that would meet the wetlands restrictions in the state. The task force, to my knowledge, was not tasked with determining which taxpayer pocket the money comes out of, which is basically what she's saying, is we don't know if we can get grants for the other thing, but we think we can get grants for this. It's all taxpayer money, no matter how it comes out. And lastly, I'm sorry that my opinion on this seems like I'm dividing the community, but it seems to me that the people that are not listening to the 70% of the respondents of their survey are the ones that are dividing the community.